Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Emily. Good morning, Janice.
Hey, Katie. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
How are you?
It's great. Hi, everyone out there.
It's Facebook Live.
Yeah,
It must be Wednesday. That's right.
It must be Redwood City.
It is. It is true. With Kate.
And Alexandria, Virginia.
That's
And
right.
Alexandria, Virginia.
And Janice from the East Coast popping in to say hello.
And wherever
Well,
you are,
yes.
welcome to the Bead Table.
Welcome. And we've got
Yeah.
Brandon and Karen behind the camera, and Kate and Emily and Janice in front of the camera. So it's great to see you all today. Well, what a week. It's been real busy. It's
Yeah.
been busy here. It's been, as you guys know, a super crazy weather week. And if you're watching us from places that have had a lot of rain and craziness here in the U.S., just know that all of us here at beadshop.com are thinking about you and hoping that all of our customers in the Southland are doing okay. So our love and
We've heard from a
good
few
thoughts.
folks in Texas.
Yeah.
I
are
have
going out to you.
that are doing okay, but they're on higher ground.
Yeah, so.
But you know, we really do think of you, and
Yeah,
and
we do.
and
So,
send our best wishes
yeah.
and our donations too.
All our love
Yeah.
out to you guys. So, but that being said, it's been a really creative week around here. It's been a creative week for you, Janice, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sitting here with a delicious table of all the new things we got in at Bead Fest.
Yes.
And I just can't wait to show everybody.
Yes, and we've got you've been cooking up just a little something special that's going to go out in a newsletter next week, kind of a real cool project that's kind of a Janice special that we're going to share next week. So
Yeah.
keep your eye out for newsletters on that. I was really bowled over. Janice just without any fanfare texted me a little photo, and I went, wait a minute, what is this? So I can't wait to share and it just to share some new project. So Karen, who have we got coming on?
We have a lot.
We've got Karen's all. Can I get in here, please?
So of course, Gita's the first one. We have Art De Niro, Lisa, Rasha,
Hey Art, hi Gita.
Tilly, Lorraine, Mariel, Janice,
There's our Janice. There she is.
Melanie, Jessica, Lorraine, another Karen,
Another Karen.
Mary Ellen, Kimberly, Beth, Yancy, Melanie, Tilly, Jeannie.
Oh, so many people.
Yeah, they just keep flowing in. Just
Yay. That's great. Well, welcome you guys. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have everybody. What we're going to do is, as always, you know, Janice is behind the computer, and our lovely Gita is also there helping some linking and some moderating. Janice is also, we're trying a kind of a little new thing here today with getting Janice's, at least her voice on our broadcast. So we're going to actually put Janice aside, but she's not going far. She's going to still she's going to still be behind the computer, but we're just moving her. So here she goes. All right,
Dun,
and
dun, dun,
you want to
dun,
just
dun,
move her,
dun,
and maybe
dun.
you want to turn her towards us, so we can see her. So we can still see you over here, JP. There we go. That's great. And so we'll see how this goes. You know, the more the merrier around the bead table. Plus, we miss our Janice, so it's nice to have her voice.
your mom just checked in.
Oh, and hi, Mama. Hello out there to my mom. It's great. She's finally getting over that cold.
How's her ankle?
Goodness,
Foot.
her foot's good.
Good.
You know, my mom bounces
back.
back completely. So it's great to see you.
We
Yep,
have
Care.
Clarice checking in from Texas. We just want to wish that.
Oh,
she's
hi,
staying safe.
Clarice.
Hi, Clarice. We
Good
hope
to
you're on
have
high
you.
ground.
Yes, good to have you. So, you guys, we have a couple of. I got some really great viewer mails that I wanted to share with you
good.
guys. Some
Good,
samples, and then I had a quick question that I wanted to pose to you, Emily, before before we got going. So let me pull up these.
Is this your latest question?
Yeah, it's my latest question.
Kate's a deep thinker.
I-
She's
well,
got us really. You
Deep
are.
thoughts. Well,
You are.
when it comes to design. So, pardon me. I wanted to share with you on our Facebook page. We do get some shares from you guys, and you do like to share some of the things that you're making, which is great. We love it when you share it on our beadshop.com Facebook page. But we have a couple, still people are going crazy with the brick stitch
I
bracelet.
know. I am so excited to see so
you
many of these come through.
Hit that out of the park
I
with
am
this.
really, and I'm working on 2 new colorways for the peyote stitch
Yeah,
bracelet as
the
well
ombre.
that you guys are gonna
It's
love. I think
looking great.
new colors that we came up with, and I think you're gonna like
Yeah,
them
they're
a whole
beautiful.
lot. Yep.
I wanted to share, Lisa put on our Facebook page, and I just want to show her. It was really a cool, let me make sure.
She did a really nice.
Yeah,
cool
she
pick-out.
started, she shared some of her kind of progress or process steps with us. So this is right from our Facebook page, our beadshop.com Facebook page. And you can see what Lisa did was she used one of our really beautiful, beautiful buttons. And you know what, Em, I neglected to check what that button is. Do you know what this one is? We can look it up real quick.
I will look it up. Hold on.
Yeah.
You keep going.
Turquoise star.
Yeah, the turquoise star, but I think it really looks great. And then she went to, since it's on our Facebook page, I didn't have that written down. And then she gave us a couple of in progress or process finish shots. Can you see this one? How she used some dark, it looks like, Lisa, you used some dark, some
Tila's
black,
and-
11/aughts, and then some half Tila beads, which look great. And that was the turquoise purple star button, is what that was.
So pretty.
And I really think it makes a really great, and there's one more I want to share, one more shot that she posted on here, kind of the full thing. And what I love, Lisa, what you did here was that you use that black as a really nice background, you know, and really did, as I like to say, a say something button or a say something bead, you know, with this turquoise star, and then pulled that color right out with that turquoise colored half Tila. I think it looks great. So really great job, and thank you so much for sharing that. And then we've got a great email from, let me pull this up, from Anna in Portland. And what Anna says is, she says, hi, here's a picture of the bracelet I made from Emily's Brick Stitch bracelet class last Wednesday. She said, I had to use size 8 seed beads because they were easier for her to see and to work with. They are a dark aqua blue color. She used silver daisy spacers and copper colored glass pearls, and she used a salmon colored button from her stash. She said it was her 3rd attempt, and she was so pleased that she wanted to share it with the group. So let me make this a little bit larger, and I think you guys are going to love this one. I know that Emily and I really
love
do.
the button,
Yeah,
Anna, that you have on here.
So
I'm
great.
impressed with your stash.
Whoops, it was a little bit bigger. Let me make it a little bit bigger.
Beautiful.
Look at how great that is. That button really, again, I think this is a really great showcase. If you have a special vintage button out of your button box or something, it really looks great. And I love how she kind of took the lead from your white piece that had the daisies and then interpreted it in her own colorway. So
You know, any
really
daisy
nice.
spacers or caps, it sort of makes it look like it's a more finished piece. That
Yeah,
whatever you put in the middle,
a little more fancy pants.
a little
I
more
like to
fancy
say.
pants,
Yeah.
but it I don't know, it adds sort of a metalsmith edge to it.
Yeah, a
you know?
nice parentheses around the bead. It looks great. So that brings me to my question before we get going. And this was watching you last week, Emily, on the Facebook Live while we were rushing around doing or not last week, but when we did brick stitch a couple weeks ago. I was really struck by the process of this piece. And I started to think about when I was doing my teaching and stuff at Bead Fest about the process of making things. So I posted this question on my Facebook page and my personal page, and I wanted to just kind of put it out there with you because I'd like to know what you have to say about it. And so the question was, are you a project or process focused beader when you're in the maker mode? Does your focus sometimes change with what you're doing? And does it change where you are on the learning curve? Like if you're a beginner, are you more focused on the process, and maybe when you get better at it, are you more focused on the project? Or do you just simply like to be creative and, enjoy that process part? Or are you someone who is like going for the goal? Do you just want to get to the finished project and finish it and have a finished thing all ready to go?
It's really hard for me to answer that question because I think there might be times where I'm sort of both. I really hate to have quiet hands. I really like to be doing something.
Yeah, I agree with you.
My hands. So I love
That's
having
funny
conversations.
How you say quiet hands. That's a great analogy. I like
And
that.
like when I'm having
My
a
hands are never
conversation
quiet.
with someone, I like to be doing.
Right.
I might go to a pottery class with a friend, or and we have the best time just sort of chatting while we're working. I think when I'm working on something myself, I tend to have the lightning bolt syndrome. Something kind of strikes me, and this is often in the shower with the water hitting the back of my head.
Right.
I found that's a really
get some good ideas there too.
creativity
Yep.
place. So I tend to have sort of lightning bolt ideas, and then I go and do. So that loveliness of having something kind of exciting strike me, I really, really enjoy. I know that I often have a long-term project that I'm working on and a short-term project.
Right, that's a good way to
Seed
do it
beading,
too.
sometimes you have these bigger projects that you're working on, and they take a little bit longer to do, and so it might happen in little parts, little bits and pieces.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I found, especially when teaching in class, and I kind of wanted to relate that to you guys as you're doing some learning, because sometimes I find feedback from you, and I know that Janice gets this question a lot too, is a lot of what we do here around the bead table and what we do in these Facebook Lives, we make look very easy because we've gone through the process. You know, our hands have done this and done this and done this. So I think I would call myself, I'm also a little bit of both. I enjoy the process. And I think that when you kind of resign yourself to that process and resign yourself to really learning, the outcome is going to be the outcome, whatever it is. And like what Anna was saying, that was her third attempt at that project.
Kendra too from last week, she also had that same sort of thought.
So sometimes you just have to wade through the process and go through it in order to get to the project that you're looking for. Janice, I don't know if you have something that you wanted to jump in about that. You're
Yeah, I struggle with that myself because I start something and I was thinking this week, especially after last week and defining creativity and addressing it as I did in episode notes, that as Emily had said, that as you get through the technical, learning the technical, figuring out what the problem is, you create new ideas and it takes you down a different path.
Yeah.
So I think the important thing is not fighting the technical and just, you'll see it's gonna grow with you. I get excited thinking about this.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's some of what we bring here, what we try and bring here. And so I just wanted to open that up for discussion.
I've
this
noticed
morning.
over the years with teaching that for myself, when I first started with beading, it was just such a joy of exploration and discovery and finding all these new things. And it was, squirrel, there's another thing. And oh my gosh, I want to learn that. And how do I get here? And it was really a pleasure to have all that excitement about it. And that was in the early days. And then the middle days of my beading career had been more, okay, I really need to put my learning cap on and be in student mode and get these things, these techniques, because I'm going to show them to someone else. I need to be very
a little more focused and
sort of
deliberate,
methodical, about how I do things. And now I'm kind of getting back to the other side now. Of,
woo!
I can do whatever I want because I have experienced it. And a lot of students say, well, you've been doing this for so long, you're so smart, you're so good at this. It's like, it's not so much that I have some, born with talent. It was more that I've just done a lot of experiencing.
A lot of experience,
And that it's okay if something doesn't strike you. Not everybody loves seed beads. It's okay. I mean, I don't take it personally, but I want you to find things that you love and do them.
Yeah, and just have that creative
And
outcome.
I love the idea of doing things with my hands, whether this is woodworking or weaving or beading or knitting or sewing or any of those things that you're doing,
Yeah.
those really
It keeps
turn me
those
on.
quiet hands busy.
It does. And so when I go to yoga class, all I can think about in my head is,
Right.
I can't think about the yoga move.
Right.
I'm thinking about
About
what I should be
making.
doing next.
Well, let's get to what it is we should be doing next, because
Please.
we have so much to share.
Oh, and I'm so excited about looming. It's
yeah.
one of my faves.
But I did want to put it out there, and I really would be interested to know in the comments, and I'm going to read those afterwards. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say. So with that being said, let's go ahead. Bran, let's move things around. So we'll do our work on our area here. And would you hand me Janice?
Oh,
Just
yes.
real quick.
You want Janice? Here's
Yeah,
Janice.
I'm going to grab Janice, and I'm just going to...
How are you grabbing me?
I'm just grabbing you here. I'm just going to make sure. There we
careful,
go.
Howie.
I'm putting it on.
Oh,
I'm-
that tickles.
There, woo! I just grabbed her. There we go. I wanted to put you on do not disturb mode so I don't get a phone call in the
Ding, ding,
middle
ding,
of
ding,
this
ding.
in the middle of this show. Great. How are we looking? Where am I working, Bran? Here.
Yep.
Yep.
We're good.
Excellent, yeah.
Okay, you tell me.
Fairly low to the surface, but right in there.
Right there.
Go
Okay.
up a little bit.
All right. So the project, you guys, that we're going to be working on today. Any questions or anything so far before we kind of jump into the learning of this part?
Nope, everyone just found a lot of support in you guys talking about your process.
Oh,
and
great.
making jewelry, but everyone's
Good.
ready to go.
Ready? Are we
Yeah.
ready? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to need for this project. And you can see, of course, as always, on our beadshop.com homepage, you can click onto the Facebook Live little banner up there, and it'll take you to today's project, Leather and Looming, and you'll see a listing of everything you're going to need. But I'm going to run down just real quick the 3 different kind of colorways and stuff that we did. And Emily, will you put up the list? I know you did
Yes.
a nice list for
Hold
me,
on a moment.
so I can see. Maybe I should put on my glasses so I can really see. There we go. So we're going to start out with some of the seed beads, and I have 3 different colorways. There we go. And we've got the blue, which is the ivy on stone. We've got this purple, which is the Italian tapestry. And then we've got kind of what I call this tan or beige, which we're calling nautilus. And so the listing, what we've got here is we're using kind of a delica, and it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but what I chose for this project is sorry, I'm just not seeing where I am. Is this okay?
Yeah.
I chose these kind of faceted or cut delicas to add a little more texture to the looming part, okay? So we've got, for this nautilus, it's the sparkle beige. For the Italian tapestry, it's the dark raspberry, metallic dark raspberry. And then we've got this metallic olive green iris that's over here. And,
Kate,
yep,
Kate,
uh-huh.
could you show everyone the nautilus on your wrist?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually
So
take
pretty.
this off. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
And I'll show everybody these. So, the thing that I wanted to show or share with you on this project is you literally could use any delica or any 11-aught really, and any strap leather, and any magnetic clasp that fits this. And can you keep that back up? I'm sorry, I need the list.
All right.
And your project is going to look fantastic. So let me show you all 3 of these so you can kind of see them. So here's the nautilus, here's that Italian tapestry, and here's the ivy on stone. There we go. And so I just love the strap leather, you know, and that was really kind of the motivation for me to design this piece. So I started with the strap, and this green one was the first one that I did. And then I thought with the dotted strap, and we have such beautiful dotted strap leather in some different colors, but I then chose this zinc, the matte zinc plated seed bead to really echo the dot on the strap. That was kind of my thing, and I thought, well, let me just find some green, and so that's how I did that one. And then I wanted to just showcase some of the different, our plain strap, the purple, and then the stitch strap here
I
with
love
this.
that stitch strap.
This might
It's
be my
so pretty.
favorite.
The
And we
color is
have
just
this
so
stitch strap
delicious.
in a darker brown too,
I
which would
saw
look
that.
great. So, and you can see I was wearing it with my stack that I have here, and it really is, I think, my new favorite thing to wear. So, but again, I urge you, of course, we do have these in our projects, the different ones, but I urge you to just break out and kind of play around. I pulled some other, this is our 10 millimeter magnetic clasp, and I pulled a couple of other 10 millimeter magnetic clasps. This, as you guys know, if you've been watching our Facebook Lives for a while, you know what Janice's favorite clasp is, right? And go ahead, I'll take a look at the shot now. You know that Janice's favorite clasp. Janice, what's your favorite clasp?
Oh, well, Book of Kells.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I had to show it to her to make sure that she knew what her favorite clasp was. But that is, I know that's Janice's favorite clasp for leather. For any kind of strap leather. And I pulled into some of our others, that strap leather that we have. Oh, thanks, Em, for getting that started for me. You read my mind. I pulled some other strap that I thought would look great. I have the Fleur de Paris. I have this medium brown, whoops, come here, medium brown, plain strap. And then I have some of this bark brown Galaxy leather. And these, I think, would also make really, really nice ones as well. So it really just depends on what you love. But look at how that Book of Kells would just, you know, you can use the same colorway, but look at how great this one would look with a darker. I don't know if you can see that in there, but it would look really great with a darker strap, you know, and a different clasp altogether. Or even this Fleur de Paris, if we put it with this kind of purpley colorway, and we used the copper Book of Kells. The last thing I wanted to mention was you can also, and I've thought about doing this when I was designing this piece, I thought originally that maybe this loomed section would just be its own bracelet. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I love it
thought
all connected together.
we could use our special delivery clasp for that.
Yeah.
And I thought about making it really super long. Yep,
Just
question?
a little
Yep.
question about
Yep.
leather. Melanie wants to know, could we use the deer lace with this?
Oh, Melanie, that's a good question. I think the deer lace, and Janice, you tell me what you think, but I think the deer lace is a little too thin.
Well, if you were to use multiples of it, and then just be really careful gluing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the thickness of your looming, maybe a little wider. So I think just be really careful, because if you get the glue on the deer skin, and it spreads, it just looks really pretty yucky.
Right, and it would.
Shouldn't it glue in?
What's that?
Wouldn't it glue in okay?
The deer lace?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, doing something that's multiple strand would look. Which size do you need?
I was looking for just a long beading needle, either a 10 or a 12 in there.
I've got this.
Perfect.
Okay, there you go. No, that's true, and if you do it multiple so it's more thick rather than thin, I think it would look nice. I wanted to show you also, you guys can see what's on my wrist here, my
that one
my
is
favorites.
so delish.
This is the one of these that I did on a free tip Friday a while back, and the handout, or the looming little handout for it, we've linked on the Facebook Live page for this week. But I wanted to show you, I use that same clasp, this special delivery clasp, on this one. And this is a 3-wrap. So it's all in how we finish it, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we finish it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how I made this one, because these two are made pretty much exactly the same way. This just has 3 rows of looming, and this has 2, 4, 6, I think 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, sorry. 6 rows of looming. So it's just a little bit fatter. But it's exactly how I set it up, how I did it, so it's all the same. So I wanted to share that with you. So let's take a look real quick. I'm going to move all this leather. I'm in leather heaven, yeah.
A little bit of beads here from you.
But our strap leather, you know, we use it in our prairie projects. We use it in so many things. It's really, when I first came back on board here at Bead Shop, I couldn't believe it. I hadn't seen the strap leather before, really, and I really had not worked with it at all. So it's been really kind of a joy to play around with. So, questions on anything else, Kara, before I kind of jump into this looming portion?
You're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how are you doing out there, Janice?
I'm doing really well. Drea just stopped by with all of the beautiful new green girl charms and buttons that we're going to put online soon.
Oh, I
we're
can't
excited.
wait. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let me show you, you guys. This is our little, my little seed bead chart sheet that I made. And I'm going to turn it around so it's facing you guys here. There we go.
Everybody loves this chart.
Yeah, well, it was really fun to do. And we, and I have a sample for Drea. You know, Drea is doing kind of a weekly thing on our blog now that's called Connections. And she's, all of the really great samples and stuff that you guys send me, she puts them in a blog post. So I have a really great one for her to put in Connections this week. And I've shown it before, but I'll show it again. It's this kind of 3-wrap piece that someone interpreted in some different colors. So the way that I started when I was kind of thinking about just doing like a long, simple loomed piece that I wanted to wrap, I used Delicas because I really liked the way that the Delicas worked for me, and I really loved the effect that they have. So I started with just kind of sketching out, mapping out a little thing. So I used my grid in my little Microsoft Pages or whatever, or numbers or whatever I used, or Apple numbers, whatever, Microsoft, Apple, whatever you have. And then I just started coloring these things in, and it's a perfect grid for the seed beads. So you can see the piece that I have here is actually this pattern. So it's a dark pattern, then a really light pattern, then a medium pattern. So that's this guy here. Okay. Then I wanted something that was a little more of a chevron. So that's this pattern here, and I used 2 colors. I used the dark and the light, and then I had kind of this little checkerboardy kind of a pattern here, which was the light and dark, and then the checkerboard down the center. So it really just depends on, then I've added a couple of little others. I thought a stripe would be cool. I thought doing something like this would be cool. But I left you some space for you to color in your own little drawings, you know, and decide what it is that works with you. And what I do, I make like little notations, and we've shown this before, but like you can have little symbols for, you know, which bead might be what. So maybe if I do that spiral, maybe that's a spiral and a spiral and a spiral, and then maybe my middle size color is this here, and my spiral, and then maybe it's, you know, these 3 lines. Maybe that's it. And I kind of take this nod from reading knitting patterns. You know, we make our knitting patterns universal, so we don't actually make them in a color. So that's kind of where I got this from. So you can just kind of draw out your own little pattern and see what works for you. So that, going from this, made me jump over to this. And I'm going to show you the 3 loomed pieces here. What I've got is, I've got the ivy. I'm going to move this over. And it's a simple checkerboard pattern. You okay there, JP?
Yeah.
I heard that sigh all the way from Alexandria, Virginia.
Really?
Yeah, I have you right here. I'm not gonna let that sigh get by me, JP.
No, I was saying I love your zipper pattern the most.
Mm-hmm.
The top, from the viewer's point of view, it's the top left.
Oh, yes, this guy.
But
Yeah.
but I love all of them.
Thank you. What was that, Kara?
Say
Question?
maybe remind them where they can find that.
Oh, yeah. And again, you can find this, you guys, if you go to this week's Facebook Live. There's a download.
Kate, I just put a link.
Did you link
it?
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's in.
Perfect.
I'll link it again now. Just to anyone who needs it. There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then you can see what I did here, and I'm just going to recreate this pattern. This was a 3-row pattern. So I'm going to kind of draw my little line here. So we're going for these 3 rows. And what I did, you guys, was I just did a little checkerboard pattern with just flipping the beads back and forth. And you can see, if I show it, how when I loom, we do a delica, a metal 11/0, and a delica. Then the next row we reverse it. Metal 11/0, delica, metal 11/0. So we're kind of, it feels kind of, and I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but I really like the texture that this gives, kind of the difference between this kind of bulbous, I don't know if that's the right word, but a more bumpy 11/0 and that smooth delica.
You know what I like about the 11/0 metal is it's actually a little bit bigger in outside diameter than a regular glass 11, and they actually have some dimension. If you can show that on the side, the 11/0 metals they stick up and poke down a little bit from the edge.
Right.
And it's actually really nice in the hand. It's a really nice
Yeah,
feel.
it feels kind of,
And
kind of sultry.
I know that while I was working on one of these samples, I spent a lot of time sort of fondling it.
fondling the looming. I agree. I think it's a really it's great
you know,
tactile.
feeling it in this direction right here. You can really feel those 11/0, the metal aughts, and they're a little bit different feeling than the others.
And you guys, let me just say, you can use any bead you like. You don't have to. I would use this, as an 11/0. They're both 11s. You could use both 8s. You could use both 6s, but you will have to adjust the clasp accordingly. This 3 rows of 11/0 directly correspond to, it makes a 5mm strap, which also matches up with this 5mm strap leather. So that's how you would make sure that that's correct. But we have, wider clasps and stuff like that, and all you need to do, that's what I did here, was I just kind of experimented to see what fit nicely. But look I can see on the screen, look at how cool all 3 of these look together. I mean, you could even use our 20mm clasp and make a couple, could make 4 of these straps, I don't know, and that would fit in like your 20mm clasp. I don't know. The sky is the limit on these. Okay.
Where can they find these different colorways and the list of these ingredients?
Yeah, so if you go right onto beadshop.com and you go to our project page, up right in the right-hand corner as you're looking at the screen, click on projects and you'll see leather and looming, and click on leather and looming and you'll see all 3 of these colorways mentioned there, and you'll find that list. Okay, so they're all there for you. Alrighty. So let me show you how about some of the looms and stuff that you can use for this. Now, let me jump back here just a moment. If you were making something that was just a single wrap, I know a lot of you just like to do a single wrap, or maybe you're doing things for, you guys, it's almost Labor Day here in the States, and if it's Labor Day, that means it's almost the holiday season. So do not wait on getting your holiday beading started. Let me just put a little bit of fear in your heart. Right, everybody over here just shivered, but and I know you shivered out there going, no, wait, somebody posted, it was like, it was like less than 120 days till Christmas.
Yikes,
and
don't do that.
I was like,
me.
all right, Christmas countdown. But something like this, that's just a single, this is a really quick, fun, easy loomed project that you can just go ahead and, make pretty quickly and easily. Something like this on the jewel loom would you hand me that jewel loom that's right next to you?
Jewel loom.
The single jewel loom and the little thing that goes with it. The little, yeah, perfect. This jewel loom, thank you. This jewel loom's a little dusty. I'm going to wipe this off. This jewel loom's been on the shelf too much. We need to get it out and use it. The jewel loom is great if you want like a portable project, if you want to take it with you on the road, whatever. But it's great if you just want to make like a single strand bracelet, right? This would be great. So the jewel loom, if you do have one and want to do that, that's fantastic. But the way that we're going to do this today is, and Emily is busy working on hers already, we're going to do the method that I had doubts. Janice, I have to confess, when I first saw you do this,
Yes.
I thought, what is this crazy lady doing? And then I realized it was Janice, and I thought, oh, there's probably some genius idea behind it. And
Well-
indeed, Janice, there was.
Well, the idea really didn't come from me.
Who originated this idea?
It really is a quilting idea,
Uh-huh.
and it really came from Samantha Applegate.
Oh.
We called her Sam.
Right, our
And
Sam.
She was a weaver, actually, not a quilter.
Oh.
And I had, for everyone out there was not a loom on the planet in all the years I had the shop that I
I got
liked. My threads would get tangled, the little screws would get lost, the wire would get bent, the wooden dowels would get, thrown away or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Sam said, hey, wait, why don't you just loom right on this design tray?
Right?
And I said, what?
Who's a genius?
Sam was a genius.
Yeah.
Is a genius.
And you know,
I can't even tell you, that deep dish is all I live with. That's
Yeah.
it. You can take looms till the cows come home. Give me my deep dish tray.
That's all we
You can
need.
even use a baking dish.
no, you can, or a shoebox lid, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Em, what I'm looking for? Yes, you know what I'm looking for.
I do. I got your
11
back,
knots.
Jack.
You got it. So I want to show you how I work with this deep dish, and then I'm going to show you how I would what needle and stuff I would choose, because when Gracie did one of the samples, she did, I think it was this one, the Nautilus. And Emily, I think you did the tapestry, is that right? Italian
yeah.
tapestry. And I did the green, the ivy on stone. And I think we all kind of used we may have all used a different needle, I'm not sure. But I want to show you a little bit about those needles too, talking about the one we have listed. So the way that I use this deep dish, and I also have some weaving experience. I really love to weave. I just come around and I go once, there's my first channel, my second channel, and my third channel. And the thing that I love about this is I don't have to worry about figuring out what size my beads are at this point. I need a little more of a tail here. Leave yourself a better, longer tail than I did, but I'm just going to wrap it, bring it around. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And I've got my thread right here, and I'm just going to cut it off. Emily's going to cut it off for me. And now I make sure everything's fairly tight, and I'm just going to come in and give myself, I've got it here.
You got
I'm going
it?
to do this single-handed.
All right.
Give myself a little square knot. I'm going to see. I'm going to challenge myself.
So I was impressed at weaving on these trays, which it's not something that I have done very much of in my loom weaving experiences. I am a big fan of the Indian bead loom, which
Yeah.
is kind of a very basic,
A basic,
beginner loom.
yeah.
And I know Janice is not. She's nodding and saying yes, the little rollers get lost, and yes, the little wing
Yeah,
nuts get
I
come
know.
missing. But
I feel the
find
same
it's-
way.
I know. I find that it's actually pretty stable, and I like it. I've also built a couple of looms myself over the time, over the years, and I like those a lot. One thing that might help this loom style of weaving, and I don't know if you guys have ever done this or not, but on some looms they have not a spring or grooves to put the threads in, but you make a warping bar yourself.
Right,
a little
like out of
section.
beads or something. Yeah.
And so what I would do would be to, and if I can bring this guy in, because this has got some threads already on it and it's light colored, I would actually string up a bit of string with 3 beads on it, and I would put them underneath this thread as I was warping the loom, so that the warp threads stayed the correct distance apart.
That makes sense.
And that way, your first row that you put on, like almost anything with seed beads, the first row is a bit struggly. It kind of takes away some of that issues.
Right.
But that's one way that you could make this feel a little bit more user-friendly.
Right.
Right?
Well, one of the things that I do, and I think that's a great tip, I've actually seen you do that with this board, and I thought it was a cool idea. The cool thing that I like about this is because you guys know me, if you know anything about what I do, is this okay, Brand? Am I in the shot?
Back just a little bit
back towards me? Okay, there we go. If you know how I work, I like to kind of do by improvising to see how things kind of look. So I like that I'm not locked into how wide these channels need to be. So I can come in and I use my trusty awl, and I can move if I have bigger beads. Like let's say that I was doing this with the Tylas or whatever, the Tyla beads, or if I were looming with checkmates or whatever, I could move my little warp threads to whatever width I wanted them to be.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Of course.
But for this, I know just by experience, they need to be pretty close. And all I need to do is push them in a little bit tighter. To kind of backtrack just for a moment, I have that little square knot. It was right over left, left over right, and it's just tied up here on the back. I don't do anything with the tails. I don't make them very long. And I don't need to glue this or anything because I'm going to eventually cut these threads in half to free up my thing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, JP.
The beauty of tying each of the warp threads in a knot is that you can roll the thread around and then have more thread to use. Can you do this with yours?
I do. And you know, that's one of the things that I saw this from the front when we had it on our video. And my mind went to, this is how it was done. And then when Gracie and I were working on a project and I looked at her, I said, Gracie, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm just tying these each off. And I said, I never have tied them each off before. And so what Janice is saying, you guys, and what works really well is if I need to move my work, all I need to do is, and I can do this now, see how I'm just moving my threads? I'll just move them in a complete circle. Here's the knot that I did earlier. I'll just keep moving it around. So I find that since it's one complete circle, I'm not dealing with all of those little knots.
So it's a continuous warp.
Yeah,
as
one
opposed
continuous
to
warp.
Cut warp.
Right, rather than warps that, are cut one against the other. So now I need to do my first row, okay? Before I do that, though, I want to talk a little bit about needles. Now, just like Looms, who tapped me in the back?
Me.
Who was that? That was Jen. What was that? Yes.
She's tapping
yes,
for me.
question.
What
Hi,
thread
Jen.
are you using?
Oh, thank you, Karen. Thank you, thank you. You know, we talked about the beads, but we didn't talk about the thread. We're using KO thread. And would you hand me your KO that you've got there, Em? We've got the dark purple, the dark olive, and the natural. Now, if you have KO at home, you guys, and you feel like it works, you can go ahead and use it. We liked matching the different colors to what we were doing. And of course, like in looming, we're going to go through with a single strand and then back through. You know, your looming choices, thread choices are as vast as, you know, as threads that are available. This one that I did here, I don't know what I used. I might have used, it might be KO. But I could, honestly, if I were looming with beads that were larger, I could use micro sealon
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you like. But for this project,
And I think I would warp with the same size of thread I was weaving with.
you know, I don't always do that.
Really?
I'll be honest.
Honestly.
Because I sometimes, especially these outer threads, sometimes I really want like a heavy KO or something, because maybe it's in the spirit of the beads that I'm using. Or if I'm using, like, if you go way back to the very first Facebook Live we did, I did that project called Debut. I used Ceylon, and I think I used Fine for that.
For the warps, and then you wove with the KO.
I wove with the micro Ceylon.
Oh, all right.
I know, I'm a rebel.
Yeah, you are.
I know.
So I think I would have balanced them so that the look was sort of the same. If I was using warp threads that were fairly heavy, I would want my weaver, the one that's going back and forth, to be the same.
Yeah.
I think for me that would be one
visually
of those
what would work for
yeah.
you, that you couldn't get past.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that, for needles, Gracie, what she used when she made her sample, I saw her weaving away, and my eagle eyes, I went, Grace, what are you doing? What needle are you using? And she goes, I'm using the big eye needle. And so she actually did her looming with the smallest of our big eye needles, which worked fine. We didn't list them in the ingredients list or in the tool list, whatever, but it's that big eye that's here. And so if you do have trouble sometimes, or if you're using a thread that's heavier, but if you do have trouble seeing that eye, the big eye needles are great, and I really love them. So
I think a stiff needle is really what you need, since you have to kind of poke it back
and
through
this
the bead.
is fairly, it's fairly stiff. I think it works out pretty well, but she was just going to town on it, so it was great. What I am using is I'm using a size 10 seed bead needle, but you could also, if you have them, you could use our Looming, the jewel loom needles, which come in some different lengths as well. Since this is such a narrow band right here, I just thought our size 10s worked just fine. So I'm going to cut some thread, and like I am wont to do, I like to wax it. So I'm going to just start to wind off some thread on my spool, and I'll use the board to help measure my lengths. Maybe I'll go 1, maybe 2 board lengths, so it's not so unwieldy for the camera. Give it a little snip here, but you use as much thread as you are comfortable with doing, because it's really easy. You've seen Emily do it a billion times, and I'll show you today how to add and take away thread. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a little bit of wax, just because I like to wax my thread. If you don't, that's fine too, but I feel like it gives the thread, especially with looming, a little more body. And then see what I do, as I always do, I give a little bit of extra wax onto the end of my thread, so when I go to needle my thread, it'll be pretty easy. And the way that I do that is I'll come in, I'll slide that thread just to my thumbnail, and I'll put the head of the needle on that thread and pull it through. And I'll tell you, you guys, this is really far away from my eyes, and it's really kind of unwieldy, and I got it through pretty easily, so I think that's a really good tip. Any questions so far, Karen, before I start doing my first row?
No, but they keep asking about the jewel loom. I think we just need to remind them that it's good for single.
Yeah, so, and that's a good thing. A jewel loom, you guys, we're not able to do this kind of moving around kind of thing like this. Your warps stay stationary. So if you're doing something that's just a single wrap around and you want it to be really portable, I think it's great. The other thing about doing a board like this is you can set up your board with several warps and kind of go back and forth as you're working. It would be kind of fun to compare colors and stuff. So, Bran, how is it with the threads? Can you see the threads and everything okay on here?
The lighting's
It's
really
okay?
nice today.
Okay, great.
Kate, I just wanted to add that I'm not a planner. I am not good with charts and patterns, but I will start my looming in what would be considered the center
The
of
center.
the design.
You read my mind, Janice. You fancy pants. That's just right. I was going to mention, and I think it's a good way, because again, this is something that I got from Janice when I was doing a looming project, and she said, well, why don't you just start from the center and work your way out? Because a lot of times, especially you guys, if you're doing a looming project that's just going to be a single wrap, and you want the center to fall in the center, start in the center, right? Does that make sense? So you could, I'm just going to start arbitrarily here, in the middle here, and I can work down and I can work the other way. I can work up. So I'm going to just come in. I'll start by just pushing my little beads under that warp. And like Emily said, it's the first row that always likes to give you the fits, right? So there they are. I'm pushing from underneath, and I just pull my thread through. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of tail, especially if I'm going to kind of work my way up from this portion. So now I need to make sure that I lock all of my beads in place. So I'm going to come back around, and I'm going to go through that little tunnel of beads, and like we've said before, I scrape the tip of my needle
on the roof of the tunnel?
Yeah, on the roof of that tunnel of beads, so I don't split my threads. Okay, and I come back through. Now what I like to do with any first row of anything is I like to, I guess, well, what's the word? I like to cement it. Reinforce, yeah. So I'm going to come back through, and I'm going to go through again. And what I do to do that is I kind of come around that little first leg, and then I come back, and then I'll go around the leg on this side and come back. That makes this first row a little more stable. Okay, so now I've started with 2 of the delica on the outside and 1, see how up my thread's a little funny, so we want to make sure that this is all correct. I don't want that big, there we go, and not too tight, you guys, visually tight but not so physically tight that your beads are starting to buckle. So now, like Emily mentioned, the 11-aught metal beads and the delicas, they're slightly different in size. So that's why, as I worked this pattern, I worked it like a checkerboard. So to kind of the metal beads kind of displace each other, and then the delicas displace each other, so that the weaving is fairly even.
Well, it allows you to even up if you're using 2 beads that are pretty different from one another. Use them in equal quantities. It's sort of like, it would be the same thing as if I was going to weave with black and white beads. I would use an even checkerboard so that it came out.
It doesn't distort or warp.
Right. It doesn't distort and make it look all wonky and wobbly along its sides.
So see here, now I have
There's a new one for
the
you,
metal
Gita.
beads.
Wonky and wobbly.
Wonky, yes. The metal beads are on the outside, and then I just poke it back through the tunnel, and we'll go to these guys. So I always start my row with looming. I always start it from underneath. Then I push them up. Sometimes I do that when they're on the needle, because sometimes I feel like having the stiffness of the needle really helps me push them up there.
Do you weave to yourself?
I am here because
because you're going the opposite.
And but sometimes I do weave. But that's like Janice's wacky suggestion of I'm going to move hands here. Wacky suggestion of starting in the center. You can kind of weave towards yourself, weave away from yourself. It's like it's its own thing. Questions? Any questions so far, Care?
Nope.
We're good?
Good.
Janice, how are you doing out there?
I'm doing really well. I'm enjoying this. I'm I had to go get my computer plug because I was running out. Did you already see the comment by Yancy about locking the beads in?
No, what was Yancy's comment?
She said, and Gita agreed with her, it's, I lock the beads in by going back through the eye of the needle, not the point, so there's less chance of splitting the thread.
Oh, if she takes, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So let me try that.
Yeah.
So I've got this. I do that if I'm taking out stitches. So let's do this. I'll put this underneath. Whoops, come here, Delica. But see, it doesn't take very long with just 3 rows. See how fast this makes up? So I'm going to come here. Now, I think, Yancy, what you're saying is you go back through with the eye. Look at that. Look how fast that was. Did you see that?
I did.
Have you ever done that?
I've only done eye first with unbeading. By unbeading,
That's kind of.
some
Did you
people
see that,
that's
Janice? I'm going to do it again.
called,
Yeah, do it again. I want to see this.
sometimes I call that they call it the rip it stitch, the frog stitch, rip it,
Right.
rip it when you're undoing.
So see, the needle went forward, and now the eye of the needle is going back. Oh my gosh. I'm right, Karen's all, huh, that's like an epiphany. I'm going to do it again, one more time. Because then you're not stopping, making a U-turn with that point of the needle. Yancy, good job. So there, and we poke it back with the eye. Nice.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, Karen likes it too. Karen's a good loomer.
Wow.
Karen's a good loomer. So, some of the ways that, some of the other looming projects, you guys, that we have online that I wanted to kind of share with you. We have our tapestry project, which is also a great one if you really dig looming. We also have, if you just go right to our website to Tricks to Looming, the Tricks to Looming, I think, is a really, it's a good, see now I'm used to going backwards. I can't get this point in there.
Mimi gave another tip, speaking of the eye. She said
Yeah.
it's good to use the eye if your thread is a little too short.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, that's also,
also clever.
yeah, I have done that where I'm like, all I can do
Whoopsie.
is back in.
I've just been stabbing myself
Yeah,
trying to
get it
needle
in
to go
there.
through.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes when I've run out of thread, but I need to bury that thread, I'll actually put the needle in the beadwork and then thread the needle.
Thread the needle, I've
and then
done that
pull
too.
that through.
Yeah,
So then you can use a big eye needle or a twisted wire needle for that
Yeah.
too.
Something new today.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops, what you
'Cause
don't want to do is tie a knot though.
Invention, necessity is the mother of invention.
That's right.
Boy, for every mistake that I've seen a student make, I've made it 2 or 3 times
Right.
with doubled thread and splits.
So,
So it's
Yeah.
truly,
Let me show you how and this one I'll go forward, and I'll use the big eye needle for this one, like Gracie does. We'll throw this in, and we'll just go ahead and I grab that guy, this Delica, and this guy. And again, the big eye for looming, this looming, you guys, it's only 3 rows, so it's so easy. Sometimes if you have more complicated looming, maybe this big, or, you know, I don't know, looming
Some
that's
more
a little
complex
longer,
patterns.
complex pattern, maybe the big eye wouldn't work as well, but I don't know, it seems to be working okay. Now, Emily remarked about, oh, I'm looming towards myself. Well, I was looming towards myself because it was camera, so I was trying to kind of make sure that everyone could see what I was doing with my hands not in the way. But again, this is kind of like a multi-directional. We can go forwards or backwards. But see, we're getting there pretty quickly. I'm going to go backwards with the big eye and see what happens.
And I have to say that Sam, because I worked on this with her, you can do multiple bracelets on the same
same
warp.
board.
Yep.
Yeah, or on the same warp even. That's true, Karen. I'm going to switch hands
because you
here.
can just keep turning it.
That's right. So if I were done with this one and I've made a short one, I'll just slide it on over and then start my other bracelet over here, right? So I could probably get at least 3 bracelets on this
Yeah.
warp, right? That's really clever. terribly clever. Isn't looming fun? I'm having fun. I don't know about you guys.
I love looming.
I do too.
Love it.
I heart.
I like to pebble.
You do. So Janice, for pebbling,
Yes.
what you have a whole handout about that, don't you?
Yes. Well, it's part of Tricks to Looming.
Is it in Tricks to Looming?
It's in Tricks to Looming. It's in the handout. It's not in the video.
Yeah.
And it's about how to use. It's sort of like ombreing,
Right.
Emily.
Yeah.
And it's going from one color to another to another. That's why I usually start in the middle, because I want to start with. Especially with the bracelet, you get going and it gets so hypnotic before you're done. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm 2 inches. It's too long.
Right, exactly.
So if I start in the middle, I tend to do my ombreing quicker, so that I don't, extend it out too long if I want that look. But
And
yeah,
with
I like to pebble.
with peyote stitch,
Oops, I
we
put
can
too many.
also bead on either end. So it doesn't really
That's
matter.
right, yes.
You could start in the middle and work your way out.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could
yes.
make swatches and then ombre them together.
There you go, just trying to get us to bead weave.
That's
You know,
right.
I'll do my
There you are with
darndest.
your stitches.
That's right. Karen, was there another question?
Yes. Gita wants to know, how do you make sure not to damage your thread when you're moving it around the board?
You know, Gita, it's a good question. I just am pretty gentle. I'll rotate this around again so you guys can see that. I was a little concerned about that, but I think with the right tension, you're not tying this too tight or too loose, and the board is nice and smooth here on the edge. I have not had any problem yet. So let me lock in this row of looming, and I will just pull this guy around. It'll kind of be like a parlor trick. I'll put this through. Okay. So here's this, and I've got my 2 needles. So now I'll just come in, let me get rid of this all, and I'll just really gently pull this around. Can you see the edge here, Brandon, when it's going to go under?
Got the base, but not the top.
Is
Yeah.
this good?
Yeah.
Okay. And see, I'll just let that go. It's just gone underneath.
Keeps on going.
Keeps on going. I'm just going to kind of pull it around. Now I'm going to turn the board to the back. You guys can see there it is on the back. I'm just pulling it around. I'm not even looking at it. And I see, oh, hey, Looming. Hey, there you are. It's coming all the way around, and I kind of gently finagle it around. There we go. So now you can see, as it's come around, it's a little off, like that, right? But I'm not going to, no crying over undone weft. You just kind of pull it back and kind of,
It's very forgiving.
yeah, you just kind of coax it back and say,
Yeah.
hey, weft, how are you? And the weft says, that was quite a trip. And then you all put me away because I'm talking to my looming. But, whatever. Whoops, and I've also lost a needle. But here it is, this guy. So we'll just continue. But let me show you, I'm going to show you this, how I change a thread. And we're going to talk a little bit about adding thread back in and about how we finish. So, am I going to have a longer piece?
I could, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know what you wanted.
Yeah, sorry,
okay,
I
I'll
want
make
longer.
more.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Can do.
Yep. So, for this row, let's say that I'm going to be running out of thread. So I'll put this guy, yeah, I was looking for a single wrap, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay. And we're going to come through. Whoops. Who didn't put on the right bead? Me. There we go.
Kate.
Yeah, question.
Jackie says that you have her talking to her beads and cords and leather all the time.
Do
now.
I?
Yeah.
Good one, Jackie. Because let me say it again. Who's the boss of this looming? You are. That's right. So see what I'll do is, let's say I'm running out of thread. I'm just going to weave through And then I'm just going to say, hey, beads, I'm in charge. I'm going to weave back. And since this is a pretty, I'm going to do that backwards needle thing. Look at that. Yancey, you have a convert, I think. It's pretty fast. Let's see if I can get it in there. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Smart.
Kate, will you just demo if the tension on the threads are a little loose, how you can support them by putting a spool of Ceylon?
Yeah, I'll show you that. Sure. Let me finish.
An eyeglass case.
Yeah, let me finish this and then I'll show you that.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll leave this tail like Emily does. I don't cut it off. And what you could do is I could come like 2 beads wise.
2 rows back?
2 rows, or go in, you know, I'm just have gone through 2 beads and I'll come back through the middle of the row and I'll leave that out for just a second so I'm not ending it right on the edge. And then I'll cut my new thread, and again, whatever length you're comfortable with, I'll go to board lengths like that, and then I will clip this extra away, and we'll pretend that I've waxed the whole thing, but I'm just going to wax this end. We'll needle the thread, slide that right up against your thumbnail, slide it just a little more. You just need a tiny little piece. Then you put the eye of that needle on the thread. Come on, I know you want to go through. There it goes. Then you just start, I'll give it one wax pass here, just to, your thread, it just gets so unruly sometimes and you just have to tame it with a little bit of wax. There we go. So now I'll come back through. I can start with that row that I've ended, or I can start the row above. And I've gone back maybe an excessive amount of rows. I don't know, Emily, if you have an opinion about this. I may have gone back 4 rows.
I think that's about right.
Is that about right?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Then I'll just pull that through.
You jogged around a little bit?
I did.
All right, that's good.
I did. I just went back and then, yeah, I jogged through with this second row. So I'll just come in. And since we're going back so far to add this thread isn't going to come out. So I'm just looming back through.
So I tend to overlap my old and new threads.
Do you? Yeah, that's, so you would have gone maybe the row beyond that?
You know, 4 rows is probably plenty,
Okay.
and then I might have picked up at 5 rows.
Okay,
and kind of
and then
through.
come back? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I don't
we've
want to
gone,
change the flexibility of it, but I
Right.
want to make sure that that new thread is locked in and
Yeah,
not
and not
getting
moving
away
it
from
anywhere.
me. Right.
So you can see, here we go, and there's my thread, and I'm going to get my snips now, and I'm going to get rid of all this extra thread. So I can get rid of this tail, that was my ending one, and I pull on that to really make the tension, make sure I get all of it. And then this one, I'm pulling, I'm very careful not to clip my weaving, because that would be super sad. So there's that. And now I'm just ready to keep going. So what Janice was mentioning, if you are having tension issues, and I haven't really had it with this so much as I've had with my laddering. Sometimes I really come up with this issue. I just want to make sure after spinning this around the board, my little rows are off just a little bit. I pulled those back in. You can tighten up the tension with, this is my little toothpick barrel here. This might be even a little bit high, but see how my tension's a little tighter even now. So you could do it with this, you could do it with a spool of Ceylon. I could grab Emily's glasses case. If we didn't need, no I can't. If we didn't need Emily's, or if I didn't need that much tension, I could do it with my spool of KO. So it just depends. It's a nice little tip to tighten things up. So now to end this piece, I want to show you guys how we're going to get all of this into the clasp. what we do is we do something that we call just the weft or the end. We just do weft weaving that's plain. And I'm going to end that last row, though I didn't with my other bracelets. I'm going to do it on this one because it's going to help to draw the thread in. I'm going to end with just a plain row of delicas.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I thought, I was in my head when I was gluing all these together, I was like, oh, I wish that these would come in just a little bit more. So I'm just going to add one little delica row, and you can see that one little delica row just ratchets things in just a little bit more tightly. Okay, and for that last row, I'm going to come in, and again, I'm going to reinforce it because it's the last row, and I want it to maybe have a little more support than everything else. Okay, and I'll do this again here. And I don't know why I did this twice. I just did. So pretend that I didn't, or do it twice. It doesn't really make any difference. There we go. Okay, so now that's done. Now, with these clasps, where's my clasp? Here it is. The way the magnetic clasp is, it has a little channel on the inside. And that little channel has a depth to it, okay? And that depth, what I do is I get a little marker and I get a toothpick and I put my little toothpick inside my clasp, and then I make like a little mark here. And so I know that that's about, and I'm going to aim for the bottom of that mark, I know that that's about the amount of plain weft that I'll need in order to hit the back of this clasp. And I find that when you make that weft the exact length, not only is it glued on the top and the bottom, but there's contact on the, whoops, this magnetic wants to hit my, stick on my pen. It'll hit the back of this clasp, so it'll be much more sturdy, okay? Or the contact glue
I always
points.
really worry a little bit about gluing, and I really feel like anytime I have to glue, that I want to fill in that opening with materials.
Yeah.
Whether it's thread or leather, or if you're using a pinch-on leather.
Yeah, you just want to make everything really.
I want to make sure it's
make
really
it all
kind
contact.
of full and the right size, and that's, to me, that's a lot of things in jewelry making and beadworking. There's quite a bit of variables that you might be able to play with, but having things that kind of fit properly are a bit more secure, and certainly make me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
So,
question, Karen?
Well, just because I know I have trouble with it sometimes, buckling. Remember Janice
Yeah,
talked about leaving a
yeah.
little bit of space. Maybe you can talk a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
that's a good idea. And I'll do that actually right when I feel like this is long enough. Thanks for bringing that up. That's an important tip. So what I'm doing is I'm just going over and under and over and under with my thread, and I'm using this needle just to kind of help me make everything fairly tight. Again, Karen mentioned that buckling issue. We don't, when you cut your looming away from the piece and you've glued it already and you cut it away, you don't want your piece to be overly tight because it will buckle up, right? Because the weft, the unwoven or the unbeaded weft on both sides will kind of pinch your weaving together. And you can see that a little bit on this piece that I did here, this long wrapped piece. You can see that some of it is actually buckling because I was so concerned about the gluing and about making this tight and even. I wove this piece way too tightly, and that's what I learned on this thing. So a little bit of what Janice likes to call air, right?
Yeah.
Air
Yeah.
is the way to go. Any thoughts on that, JP, that you've had experience with?
Well, I think that we have to remember that, especially with the zap glue, that wherever the glue drips to, that it seals. It's like a line in the sand.
It seals the deal for sure.
It seals whatever it is in place, and so it's, if you have that little bit of air before the weft weaving, or you just are very careful that you've kind of stretched your beadwork along, because just like with soft flex, when you design on your wire on a straight line and then you go to put it around your neck or your wrist, it takes up more space. Looming does the same thing, so you don't want that. You don't want zap glue drift. You don't want it to drift into the beadwork,
right,
because it's going to stop the beadwork from any kind of movement.
Right. And that may be a, I don't want to say a weak point, but maybe, you know.
Do you find, I've always found that super glue wicks along the thread.
Yeah.
In other words, like wax goes up a wick, that super glue, one of the downsides to super glue is that it tends to travel a little bit.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I like the hypo cement for many thread-based things.
Yeah.
But
and
once
the zap, too, with the gel, that's what I like.
It doesn't have that traveling process.
It does not.
Well, that's good.
No.
That's definitely comforting.
So, because I agree with you, I don't really, that's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of using the super glue on beaded objects. So, you can see, here's my little weft, my unbeaded weft. And I can see it's almost there. I'm going to insert this again into, you can see where I made the mark. It's a little high, so I'm close. I'm going to do about 3 more rows of this, and I think it'll be about the right length.
Hey, Kate, did you ever do the project where you actually used weft thread in the looming and stopped your looming, and it looks so cool?
I did. It's on my desk. It's still on the It's still on the loom.
Can we show it?
Do you want to see it?
Today?
Karen knows where it is.
I love
Love
the idea of adding the texture.
Yeah, it's something, you know, that I need to finish, because it's a cool thing. I also come from a lot of textile experience. Let me stop this for just a second. My weft, I got a little funny with my looming, or my weaving here, so I'm taking my needle off and pulling it out. Don't try and travel that needle back, or else it will all end in tears. I'll have a big knot. So Janice, this is what you were talking about, and I'll show it to you guys. Let me blow it off here, get the little dust off of it. But this, can we see this okay? Let me have it come in the shot. We good,
Yes.
Fran? So this is an instance where you can see that I've loomed with, I think, fine Ceylon, and this is the regular Ceylon here that I've done the weft with.
I love that.
And I've done a Tila 4mm fire polish, an 8/0 metal seed bead, and a little shadow. What a surprise. And I feel like this is almost like a magic carpet, you know, like a Persian rug or something. I don't know. So I haven't really figured out, I think the way that I would close this is, I've kind of played around with some of the different clasps that we've had. Maybe I'll close it with the way that you do, Janice, with the ultra suede.
Yeah,
I don't know. But you can see, you guys, I've just used plain weaving, in and out, just like I'm doing the end of the weft, to give myself some visual pause in this piece. So thanks, JP, for remembering it.
Yeah, I'll add it in episode notes
Okay.
with the ingredients.
Yeah, and this would be a fun project for fall. This really screams fall to me, because look at you guys, come on. That's going to be a great bracelet when it's done. And this is a great way, I'll show you the back of the jewel loom. You can see it just has that little button, so it's easy to warp, almost foolproof to get the right tension. Questions? Any questions, Care?
Yeah, so someone pointed out that The other looming project we did for the weft, we used Ceylon. Is there any reason why you didn't stop with the KO and move on to Ceylon?
You know, because I didn't want to change threads, I guess. I don't know. I could have done that. But I felt that with what I had here, it was heavy enough for it. So, but I could.
Well, you definitely get a really soft fabric with the KO.
Yeah.
So really, when we're weaving like this, we are creating a fabric. It's no different than a pair of blue jeans fabric. Well, different than blue jeans fabric,
Yeah.
but no different than a woven cotton that
Yeah.
you might sew with. The process is almost the same.
Yeah. Well, the thing with doing this warp at the end, I think why we did that with the KO, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but gosh, I need to get this a little closer to my eyes. I've been weaving so much that my eyes are crossing. There we go. That when we do it with the Ceylon, we're making a little end that's a little bit thicker,
Yeah.
so that it might sit in the clasp a little bit
And
better.
with the glue, it gets a lot thicker.
Right, it gets a lot thicker. So I think that's really the reason why we do that. And I thought about it when I was making these, but I didn't. And I think it's holding up pretty well. You can, but you could certainly do that if you wanted that extra little bit of insurance. My eyes are starting to say, you've loomed enough. Let me get that in there. So the way that we would go ahead and close this, which I want to do for you now, is, because it's getting to be that time, which is sad. Never like to leave you.
Baggie?
I'm getting there, JP. I'm getting there. I'm going to say that this is about the right length. And I'm going to loosen it up just a little bit. And this is what we mean by leaving a little bit of air. So I'm going to just kind of pinch this and move it out. And of course, if I had my whole long piece, I would do that, really making sure that it's nice and smooth. And then, whoops, I don't want too much air though. Come back up here. And then I would just make sure that my weft isn't pushing on my first row of beads. Now, as Janice mentioned, I like a baggie. So I'm going to put my baggie there, and I've got my zap glue. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to glue. And I'm going to add my glue right to the top there. And then I get my trusty toothpick and I try not to get that glue on the first row of beads. Now we had a piece, and I can't remember what glue we used, but I know it was a piece that Janice was doing, and the glue, when it got on the beads, actually discolored them. So remember that, JP? We were doing something, I think, with the 4mm
I
beads
think they were like some copper-plated
or something.
fire polish.
Yeah.
They were glass beads that were coated, and
Yeah.
then the glue just stripped off.
Yeah, the finish.
Yeah.
So we really
That was sad.
Yes, it was. So see how what I'm doing here? I'm really kind of flattening this warp or this weft with my toothpick, and I'm really saturating and soaking the glue in there, so it's very, very deliberate. So see now how that weft looks, how it's a little flatter. It's even a little longer, but it's really kind of tamped down in there. Then I'm going to let that sit, and I do the same thing, you guys, for the other side, okay? And what I would do is I would just, whoops, that's not my loose length. When I have my two long pieces, and I'll go ahead and we're going to pretend, I'm going to, is there some tape? Can you hand me some tape? I'm going to actually pretend that this is wefted on the other side, so nothing comes apart. There we go. And I would let that sit, though this is almost set up here. Needs a couple more minutes. But what I would do then is I would come in. I'm also going to cut my leather. So I want to make sure that I have a nice straight across clean cut. And with the studded leather, you guys, I want to make sure that I don't have a stud that's going to go inside the clasp. So I want to make sure that I've got enough room there. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to give myself a nice clip across. Now, once this is set up, I'm going to go ahead and fearlessly, and again we're pretending that this is a long piece, that it's all one big thing. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to clip this away. Shall we do it? Yes. Look at that. Then I just take it here. Let's put the board aside. What's that?
Karen has a question.
Karen, question?
A good old question about Fireline again. Can we do this project with Fireline?
Yes, 110% Fireline. You bet. Fireline, Fireline. So, and we'll have our Fireline. It's going to be up on the web fairly soon, I think.
Yeah.
Right? We'll have that up for you soon. Karen's all right, I got to get back to work then.
Well,
Let's get off this Facebook Live thing.
Janice did a
Yeah. Remember, Janice, we can hear you.
I keep forgetting that.
I'm right next to you, Janice.
Yeah, so Karen can especially hear you. So now, whoops, I've got just a bevy of threads. I'm going to get rid of some of these threads because they're making me crazy.
Giving you the bugs.
There we go. That's better. So now, in real life, in real jewelry making time and not in demo time, you guys, I would really let this sit and set nicely. And I'm going to come in, so after maybe an hour or so, or maybe a little bit longer, but you can see this really is, it's there. It's not going to come out. I'm going to go ahead and do what Janice calls giving it a crew cut. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to clip off all of those little ends. And can you see I've got the little ends of my warp, or my warp threads sticking out kind of from the end. And I'm going to line everything up. That's not my cut end. Yeah, that is my cut end. And I'm going to glue it into half of my clasp. I start by gluing in the less forgiving piece, which is the leather. Okay? Because the leather you can't smush. That's a technical term. Okay? So I come in and I get my zap. I apply my zap to the edge, and the top. And I want to be really careful not to get glue out the top of this piece. So as I put it in, I really want to check the front to make sure, especially on this leather, that there's no little bits of glue or a little blob of glue coming out. And that's where the toothpick is your friend. And you can just tell it that you're in charge. But I really want to make sure that that strap is glued in there at the right angle, that it's not in diagonally or funny, that it's just right there, nice and tight. And I'm going to hold it there for just a second to let the zap do its thing, to let the zap grab it, and it's grabbing. And that's, yeah, and you can see it's pretty clean on the back. Now I'll do the same thing with this guy, with our little friend, our little woven friend. I'll add that zap to the front. And this really doesn't have a front and back. To the back, to the top. And again, I'm not going too far down towards that first row of little delicas that I put on, because the glue is going to kind of spread of its own accord. So if I would have laid glue all the way down to these delicas, that glue may have migrated a little bit. So I'm just going to come in, put that, and again, I'm working on my beloved baggie so that my surface, I'm going to turn it to the side, so my surface doesn't get glue all over it. And now what I found is if I put it in there and I use the tip of my toothpick and I keep my eye on that row of delicas that I've put in there. And if that row of delicas, and I'll turn it so you guys can see it, if that row of delicas is straight, I know that I've glued it in there pretty straight. Okay? Now you take a breath, relax for a moment, and just let it set. Okay? So when we do the other side, and again, this is a short little sample, not your real jewelry piece, what I do is I cut, and I'll show you, as soon as this is set, I'll show you what I do here. Emily, you're almost done with that one.
I'm getting there.
It's looking really nice.
You know?
We'll show people what you've
Yeah.
got.
Very pretty colors.
So you can see I've got my two that are kind of lying here side by side. As I measure for my leather, I'll hold this up and I'll just kind of gently stroke the beads to make sure that everything is even, and I'll pull everything down so that I can come in and I'll clip here so that my loomed piece and my leather piece are exactly the same length. Then when I glue the second side, I'll do it just as I did the first, but you guys, you want to make sure that you're gluing everything in the right direction. One of them, I'll be honest, it almost ended in tears for me.
Uh-oh.
When I glued this one, let me get it. They're all in a big bunch over here on the side. All the magnets are sticking next to each other. Let me see if I can show you. You can hardly see it. When I glued this guy, I glued one side upside down so that it had a twist in it.
Yikes.
I know, it was so sad. And what I did was, without even thinking, I went, oh my God, that's wrong. And I pulled it out, and my weft came apart, and I was like, I am under a deadline. Just kill me now.
I'm going to get fired.
Right? I'm going to fire myself. What I did was, I didn't panic.
No panic.
No panicking. What I did was, I kind of pushed everything, and I'd already given it a crew cut and everything, so it was all,
Yikes.
I know, it was bad news bears. I glued. I got my very calmly, put that end on my baggie, kind of like this end is here, that was just kind of open, weft, nothing. I put it on my baggie, and I very carefully glued these two rows into place. Okay? I thought about maybe I should reinforce it, but I didn't do anything. I just glued it. Then I prayed to the bead gods, and indeed, this opening was large enough to fit those first two rows in. So I did that, and I just glued them in, and it worked out fine.
Yeah.
So then, so this purple bracelet is 2 rows shorter than the others, but it still fits fine. So that's what happened. So if you panic and do this incorrectly and have to pull this out, be really careful when you pull this guy out, or I wouldn't pull out the beaded section. I would try and jiggle out the leather section.
Right.
Because let me tell you, it was not a pretty sight at my desk when I did that.
Is there swearing involved?
Well, maybe quietly swearing. But you can see here, you want to make sure this is the top, like so. You
Right.
want to make sure you're hitting it in the right direction. So any questions to finish up, Care?
No, just a tip that someone said it was Janice's idea to keep both pieces hooked together.
You could. My worry, though, was that I was going to glue this clasp together. If I had a misstep with the glue. I don't know. So I left it flat because I was actually doing them closed, and I think maybe that's how I twisted it. I don't know. So anyway, I
also sort of like the idea maybe of
did it.
crisscrossing them a little bit,
You could.
so that
Yeah.
if it would just give it another texture.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you were crisscrossing, you might have to make everything just a little bit,
A little longer.
a little longer.
A little scotch longer.
So what I did, you guys, just for the finished measurements of these pieces, the loomed length, including the woven weft, is 13 inches.
Okay.
And then the clasp gave me another inch
Of ease.
and then it wrapped just fine around my wrist. But what you want to do is, to find that measurement, is you want to figure out what the finished measurement of your wrap needs to be, subtract the length of the clasp, and don't forget to subtract, that weft is gonna sit
Inside.
right in here. So you're losing that length of your woven piece, if that makes sense. So you can see we've got all three flavors here. I'll show you one more time. These magnetic clasps like to stick to everything. There's our three. Come on there. And it's like, as Janice says, it's like herding kittens. These three samples. There we go. There they all are, just like that.
It's amazing how this green and sort of silver zinc color really greens up next to that green ladder.
Yeah, it
it's
really does.
Quite different
Yeah.
in the tube. It looks bluish.
Yeah, but right here, I think it looks really great. Any final questions, Kara, on this?
Yeah, I lied. So not
Yeah,
on
no
this,
worries. And
but
Brandon, we can start to reposition.
someone asked about your leather ring.
Did they? Well,
They said,
we'll
did
tell
she make
them.
it?
Well, I did, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as we're signing off. Emily, would you help me
I
put
would
that
be
on?
happy to help you put that on.
So I don't look completely awkward as I'm putting on all my stacks.
Although I think it's going to maybe have to go down here.
There we go. There it is. My
Oopsie.
Get that on there. There we go. Look at that. It just is such a nice wrap, I think. A nice stackable moment. Get me dressed here with all my stuff. So the ring that I'm wearing, and you guys can kind of see what I've got going on here. On Free Tip Friday, last week on Free Tip Friday, we made these wire rings. We used up some of our wire, our buttons. On this week's Free Tip Friday, you do have, when you buy all of your materials, you do have some materials left over.
Gotta
Up
hold
a
it
little
way
bit.
up.
Way up. There we go. You do have some materials left over. So I'm going to share with you how I make these little leather rings. And Emily, you want to hand me that little piece that you're doing there. We're also going to play around with doing some matching peyote stitch rings that go with those. So that's what I'm going to be coming at you on Free Tip Friday. It'll be a little continuation, and it's a great, fast and easy gift project that we've got going on. So that's that.
Kate,
Yep.
can we see Emily's?
Sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Let's pull that in. So we're going to have to hold this up a little
right.
bit.
Sorry
Hang on
about
a second. We're going to have a lot of bead spillage, so let me see if I
Let's
can
get these.
avoid having
Yes.
a real mix of unintentional
Oh,
proportions.
nice, good triangle management, Emily Miller. That's incredible. So can you see there?
Sure.
That looks great.
So I started out, I used my tail end to do a little warp weaving, weft selvage weaving down here at the end. And then I just continued on up. I did change threads already. So I've got a fresh thread.
And
I
this
tend to be
length-
kind of a traditionalist when it comes to when it comes to weaving. Who was it that gave us the tip about the eye
That
back?
was Yancey.
Yancey? You taught me something new today, and I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it really
Because
makes it fast.
when I was dealing with my ends of my threads, it was like bink, bink, bink,
Back
in and out.
forth. Yeah, it was
perfect.
it's a great tip.
Really a good
I
tip.
love it when we all learn something new.
Yeah,
It's
it's awesome.
fantastic.
Now I want to loom.
I know. Let's all loom.
We're gonna have a
Forget
hard
it.
time not looming for the rest of the day.
Janice, We're calling it all off. We're all looming
I want to too now.
after this.
I'm ready to get out my loom.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it's great. Well,
Yeah. Get out my deep dish, I mean.
yes, your
Yeah.
deep dish.
My
So,
deep dish.
if that's it for the questions, I guess we'll just wrap this show up.
Yeah.
Looming.
Oh, well, can we see? Rasha would like to see Emily's necklace.
Sure.
Oh, alrighty.
Can you show us?
Sure.
Let's get rid of this. Hold things up because
Yeah.
I don't have any.
So this is done with my signature pearl mix, which is pearls that I've purchased that didn't go with anything else, and over some time I developed a jar
What a
full of
surprise!
pearls.
Jar of pearls.
because I like jars.
Yes.
And then this is actually strung on soft flex with some metallic silver, kind of an antique silver in between, and it's a really long strand.
And what I like about this piece, and is it endless, Em? There's no clasp,
It is
right?
endless, and
Yep.
I often challenge students to try and find the end.
I was going to ask you where the end
Where
was.
it is, yeah, it takes some looking. So I did it with soft flex 0.14, and I ended it without a clasp, and
I'm still
covered
looking.
and covered the end with a crimp cover.
I can't even see it.
I know, it's nice, isn't it?
I can't even see the crimp cover. I love it.
I know. I can't. Sometimes
Yeah.
I can't even find
These are
it.
great. And you know, one of the things, and next week we're doing our soft flex earring, which is going to be really, really fun. It's a soft flex chandelier earring with some of our new check glass beads. And crimp covers are going to figure very prominently in that. But what I love about this piece is that all of these different shapes and sizes of pearls, I see it right there. There it is. All the different shapes and sizes of pearls, whatever you've used, they've really come together nicely with the unification of this one seed bead.
Well, and I look at this kind of design with, this is sort of stringing with a rhythm.
Yeah.
So the space in between the beads is the same, but the beads themselves are a little
Are
bit
different. That's
so
what I
this
was going
is
to
like,
ask. It is
kind of like
it looks
illusion.
like it's 5 beads, 5 seed beads between.
You know what I feel about fives.
I know,
you
5 is your favorite number.
So I put some seed beads in between. This could be like illusion knotting or like the illusion necklace that we did. This could be exposed soft flex. It could be exposed. It could be beads. It could be thread.
Yeah.
It could be leather. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. But for me, pieces have to have a little bit of something rhythmical in them.
Yeah,
Some kind
it
of
really
a
looks
repeating
great.
aspect. And I think that when you pick a bunch of stones or pearls, if they're all the same color, texture, or they have some unifier, then they all go together.
Yeah.
And pearls are pearly.
Pearls, yeah, and they look great.
They look great together.
Well, thanks for your question about that, and thanks for sharing that, Em.
Sure.
Quickly, Emily,
Yeah.
they want to know how long about.
You guys just want to keep us on, huh?
Yeah.
About close to two. It's close to 2
2
yards.
yards, yeah.
And then I can double it. I think I could actually triple it to make a choker length. Not quite. If I put a clasp on it, I could triple it.
Yeah.
But I can double it for sure. And you know, this way you get
It's
twofer.
so
It's
easy.
a twofer.
Yeah, it's
right?
really nice.
You
You
could
could
wear
wear
it
it long or short.
Wear it long or short.
Yeah.
I actually wore it to a wedding over a ivory blouse,
Uh-huh.
long, and people were coming up to me with touching. What is this that you have on?
You're like, it's my special necklace.
can-
Yeah, it's really pretty. I love
yeah.
it. So inspiring.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
I haven't worn it in a while, so I thought it went with this top.
Well, it'll get us ready for soft flex earring for next week.
for sure.
Well, before we sign off, as always, we've got some things for you guys. And I did want to mention, just before we close, that you can find all of our Facebook Lives. You can find them in 3 places for beadshop.com. You can find them here on our Facebook page. They're archived under our video tab. You can also find them on our YouTube channel. And with our YouTube channel, you don't see as many of the comments and stuff, so sometimes we appear a little chatty on those, but we really appreciate you guys watching them and stuff. And, you know, if you are watching these on our YouTube channel, or if you go back and watch our other ones on the YouTube channel, typically about 15 minutes of what in is where our learning begins on these. So if you kind of, you know, slide that little slider over at about 15 minutes is where the learning usually starts with those. And also you can find them archived right on our website at beadshop.com. Click on the Facebook Live page, and Karen has uploaded those right. Every technique has that video embedded in there. So you can find them in a bunch of different places. And let me say before we share these, we really, really appreciate all of your views, your shares. Oh my gosh, the shares that you guys do of these videos, we really appreciate that. It really helps to get the word out and to get everybody all over the world beading. It's really, really great, and we really, really appreciate that.
And we really like having you here every Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it makes our week.
It does. It's our favorite day.
We just reconnecting with everyone. It feels really good.
Yeah.
And we really like that a lot.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah.
So, and keep those samples coming. If you have something for our Tiara Challenge, send it in. And we've got a really great September plan because this is our last August broadcast. August is done,
Over.
you guys.
Over
so,
and done.
But what we've got now, of course, as always, we love a giveaway at the end of our Facebook Lives. So today, what's the date today? Today is the 30th, 8/30, 2017. And if you make an order of any size at beadshop.com today, we will put your Zap glue in. We'll throw one in at no charge. But what you have to do in your shipping notes, you're going to put in the words Zap me. And we'll throw in your Zap jewelry glue in. And that offer is good until 1 o'clock Pacific time. We'll make it a little bit after since we're going a little bit long. But 1 o'clock Pacific time today, and you'll get your free Zap glue. Your essential, our favorite glue. Gotta have it.
Yeah.
And we do have a store-wide. We've got a coupon on the front page of our website. That coupon code is summer20. And that coupon code box, if you haven't seen it or if you haven't gone to the website, it's up on the upper right-hand side as you're looking at the website. And that code is summer20. We knock 20% off of your order, and that's good through
tomorrow.
Through the 31st. Yeah. But do sign up for our newsletters. We do send out some great offers with those. Janice has some really great things that she's cooked up. Some really cool projects. I can't wait to share that check bead one she's got coming up. So we've got some fun things there.
I'm so excited about this.
Really
I can't stand it.
It's great.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I guess that's it. That's a wrap on August.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janice.
Thanks, Janice.
Oh, thanks, Emily. Thank you, Kate.
Oh, it was
and
great.
Everyone for watching, and have a great week.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull you back in so you can say goodbye to everybody. And Brandon and Karen, it was great. It was a really fun,
nice to have you guys
fun episode. And we'll see you guys
Yeah.
on Friday for Free Tip Friday. You're going to love what I do with the leftovers from this project. And next week, it's another earring project
I know.
with soft
I'm
flex.
so excited about those
They're
new
really
earrings.
good.
They're really good.
They're good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, you guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for
Bye.
watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.